Hey all, before we begin, I do wish to preface this video by saying that I will be spoiling the plot of Good Will Hunting, so if you have not seen the film, please go watch it and then come back after. With that being said, back to your regular programming. Hello and welcome, my name is Koning, and today I'll be discussing the impact of greatness in Good Will Hunting. So sit back, grab some snacks, and enjoy the show. I would like to begin by giving everyone the skinny on Good Will Hunting. This classic film is about a young man named Will Hunting. Will is a natural genius and everything mathematics comes easy to him. He could go anywhere and be anyone, but he doesn't want to lose the freedom that he has now with his friends in Boston. Abused as a kid and jumping from orphanage to orphanage, he's afraid to set something up for himself because he doesn't think it would come to amount to anything better than the life he has now. Will has violent showdowns with his own flaws, jumping in and out of court and using his intellect to keep himself from real jail time. While working as a janitor at the prestigious MIT, he solves a really difficult math equation. Professor Lambeau is just as stunned as his students, not knowing who could solve that equation that took faculty 2 years to solve. As he is leaving class one day, he notices Will working on another problem that he'd put up on the board. Lambeau mistakes Will to be messing with the problem, chases him down the hallway. Will escapes and Lambeau turns around and goes back to check out what he had done. And to his utter disbelief, Will had solved the equation. Lambeau tracks down and helps Will get out of prison later on the conditions that he works for the professor, and most importantly, goes to therapy. The math is going to be easy, but the therapy, not so much. Will humiliates every therapist Professor Lambeau tries, until one. Lambeau reluctantly goes to his old roommate in college, Sean McGuire. And now this is where the story really begins. Sean McGuire and Professor Lambeau were both esteemed students in school, but went separate ways due to differences in ideologies. This is played out over the story of Will. Sean represents the heart and soul in putting others before himself, and on the other side, Professor Lambeau puts knowledge first at the cost of everything else. But both having good intentions and trying to help the world that they were born into, but they do it in entirely different ways. Will is torn between these two mentors and the ideologies that they represent. At the first meeting between Sean and Will is just as indifferent as he was to all his other shrinks. He does not respect Sean, professionally or personally. Will pulls apart whatever he can see in Sean's office, talking about the books first and how they weren't all that great. Sean just smiles, asking him what he likes to read. Will, dodging the question, instead narrows in on a painting. He tells Sean that he thinks it's a poor piece and that it's unfinished. Sean asks him why. Will goes into composition and meaning and eventually connects it to Sean's life, lastly remarking that Sean might have married the wrong girl. Of course, this aggravates Sean, but even then, he still wishes to see Will through, as he sees the scared little kid that he really is. When we are scared to face ourselves, we point fingers at everything else. Will doesn't want to talk to him, and he doesn't want people to see the cracks in his life. Soon after, Will is just starting to get into a relationship with Skylar, and everything is going perfectly. It is nothing but good times. But even then, Will is still deflecting, trying to keep from the truth about his life. He wants to appear perfect to Skylar, because he doesn't think all of him is worth loving yet. When Will comes in for the next session with Sean decides to take him on a trip. Sean remarks to Will that he had thought about what Will had said about the painting. Having stayed up all night, Sean had come to the conclusion that Will does not know a thing about life. Sean talks about how Will could tell him all the stories written in books and sonnets about music and art in detail. That Will can talk about any book written to the exact words. That he has never really lived these experiences. That he has never been on the front line of a war with his brothers crying out around him as the bombs burst in the air. That he's never known what it's like to be truly in love with another, to be her angel and for her to be yours. That he hasn't experienced staying up all night at the hospital, the nurses knowing that visiting hours simply don't apply to you, and watching the love of your life lay still on that bed. Not knowing of what will come in the future, but still being there nevertheless. Will had never truly lived yet, and that was alright. Life is so much more than just what you read or hear. Everyone has a different story, each unique to them. On the other side of the picture, Will is continuing to impress everyone with his talent in mathematics. He could solve every equation that Lambeau and others threw at him. But at this point, Will is getting bored of solving everyone else's problems. Lambeau has good intentions and tries to help get Will into a great career that could use his gifts. But Will does not wish to do any of these jobs. He wants to continue to run around with his friends and have no responsibilities. In the background, Lambeau and Sean have been arguing about Will. Sean wishes for Will to do whatever he feels is right for him, while Lambeau only sees the potential success that Will has, not the person that he is. Will eventually walks in on them fighting one day before one of his scheduled therapy sessions, and he just stands there listening to the two fight. Comforted by Sean defending him, Will decides to open up completely. Will sees the files on him sitting on the desk, asking if Sean has seen anything like it. Sean tells him that he too was abused as a child by his alcoholic father. Will just listens, hearing his story in Sean. Together they share in the mutual trauma. Sean then decides to break into him. It isn't your fault. He repeats this over and over, making it really sit in with Will. And none of this is his fault. The abuse, the brains, none of it is his fault. He did nothing wrong. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't the problem. Not something to solve just like all his other math equations. When he finally sits down and talks with his best friend, he gets told that he is doing everyone a disservice by working the same crappy job that he is now. Will, confused by the confrontation, says all he wants to do is be here, that he doesn't want to be gifted, that he didn't want it for himself. His best friend comes back at him strong, saying that it's not for him, it's for every other person that would kill for the opportunity to leave the life that they have. To do it for all the people that want to see someone from their background could be something special. And for his friends, all who saw the potential in Will. He told Will that his favorite part of the day was the few-second walk from the street to Will's front door, always hoping that he wouldn't be there. You cannot be afraid to use your own gifts. Everyone else would love to be in those shoes, and each would absolutely use the most of them. So why aren't you? Why are you so hesitant to be fully yourself, unapologetically? And of course, that does not mean you can talk down to anyone else, but know your talent and use that talent. There is something better than that, though. Love. Will bet on love over his career. Instead of taking the easier road of staying in Mass with a comfy job, he moves to California. He leaves a touching message with Sean, echoing back to the line that Sean had said earlier, saying that he has to see about a girl. With a touching ending, I wish to pose this question to my audience. What can you take away from Will's story? We all dream of being something great in this world, in whatever we choose to pursue. We look up to the people that have achieved this status, and we wish to become them. But we do not know the half of what they have gone through, or are going through. I bet most of us would have given up at some point on their journey if we were them. Born rich or born poor, both stories have struggles that we would never want. I know I would not have. Good Will Hunting shows us that just a peek behind the curtain shows the reality of what life of greatness looks like. That even the greatest minds go unknown because they are struggling with demons that we cannot see. Others choose to not pursue their dreams for many reasons, but chief among them is love. It could be love for someone, or it could be love for your career. Is that really a bad thing?